All 32 NFL teams have to have their rosters down to 53 by Tuesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. The Cleveland Browns have begun that process, and we'll get your reactions from the loss in the preseason finale to the Kansas City Chiefs. Your latest Locked On Browns starts now.
You are Locked On Browns, your daily Cleveland Browns podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends, your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound, LGB on the LOB, the Locked On Browns podcast, with to you by the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day, your host, Jeff Lloyd, now my 7th season, covering the Cleveland Browns for you guys here at Locked On. Appreciate everybody who makes Locked On Browns their first listen every single day. And the everyday crowd keeps getting bigger and bigger, and I appreciate it, and everybody should join. And the reason and the best way to do that, of course, would be by subscribing to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. Locked On Browns is always available, always free, wherever you get your podcast. Download the Game Time app, and you create an account. You use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. A lot to unpack here. Obviously, a busy 24 hours for your Cleveland Browns. Preseason finale yesterday. They lose in Kansas City to the Kansas City Chiefs. We're going to talk about that reason. I'm sure everybody's so eager to talk about that, but a lot of stuff to get to before that. We'll start here. Late this morning, Cleveland Browns agreed to a trade with the New England Patriots. The Cleveland Browns will receive running back Pierre Strong Jr. The Browns will send to the New England Patriots offensive tackle Tyrone Wheatley Jr. Wheatley had a nice summer for this team. He was kind of a surprise. His elevation, getting more regular playing time within the preseason games. This was a guy Browns took a chance on, and all of a sudden it started to click for him. This is why you pay coaches like Bill Callahan a lot of money. You give him players that need work. They need to be refined, so to speak. And Bill Callahan did a fantastic job with Tyrone Wheatley. The issue for the Browns is they knew if they released him, and they're already deep at tackle. Obviously, you have your starters in Wilson Conklin, Hudson, who I still think is better off on the inside right now, swing tackle for this team. And of course, the drafting of DeJuan Jones. There was no way to keep him on the 53. They knew they were not going to be able to get him in the practice squad, so they tried to use him as a chip. You get in Pierre Strong Jr. Ran a 4.37 at the NFL Combine, ran a 3-cone drill. I think it was 6.95. You guys know me. The 3-cone drill for me is a huge thing that I have value in as far as measuring a player's athleticism. So the Browns get in a player here at South Dakota State. He was a monster, 7.2 yards per carry in his time there. Did a little everything, even threw the ball well in his time at South Dakota State. The Browns get a guy that New England, with the Ezekiel Elliott move, maybe the Browns felt that this was a guy that was now expendable for them. They didn't really have an opportunity or a path for a lot of playing time. The Browns, we're not even sure if Jerome Ford's going to be here week 1 as your running back number 2. Even if he takes the practice field week 1, is he going to be ready to go in the game week 1? It's a hamstring injury. It certainly takes time. So the Browns all of a sudden had that great Nick Chubb and a whole bunch of other question marks in the running back room. Well, we'll hear more on Jerome Ford as far as his progression back to health. But Pierre Strong, and these guys had opportunities. Demetri Felton had a chance. John Kelly certainly had a chance. Hassan Hall certainly had a chance. But the Browns had to make a move here. They could have easily went into week 1 with Nick Chubb and any one of those guys of John Kelly, Demetri Felton, Jordan Wilkins, who also got released, or Hassan Hall as your number 2 running back. This was not a team who has the high expectations for the season. This was not a roll of the dice that they could take. I said the other day that they were still heavily invested after the trade of course, Josh Dobbs to the Arizona Cardinals. They were still heavily invested. They were chasing the running back market, really had their eyes on it. This wasn't just a result of yesterday in Kansas City. This was most likely moves the Browns were going to make anyway. Still on that front here at Browns, Nick Harris is a popular name to possibly be moved on. There are teams interested. Can the Browns get anything more than a day 3 pick? I probably don't think so. But Nick Harris is now in a terrible roster log here for where he is placed on the roster. Jakeem Grant, man, you want to talk about absolute terrible luck. You waited all this time. It was 20 months before Jakeem Grant had played in another NFL game. Finally gets out there yesterday, receives the opening kickoff, and gets crushed, man, right on that knee. He went down. You saw him writhing in pain. Patella's blown. This guy just spent an entire year rehabbing from an Achilles injury. Now he's back on IR again for the season. His season is over. Most likely his time in Cleveland is over. And what does he have to show for 2 years with the organization? One attempted kickoff return in a preseason game. The NFL can be a cruel, fickle place sometimes. Hats off to Jakeem Grant, hoping all for the best of him. But, it's a really, really difficult time in a man's life to have to, go through 1 year of rehab and all of a sudden going to have to go through it again, but right back to back. Hang in there, Jakeem Grant. And we'll see the way the course goes. Some good news on the injury front. Marquise Goodwin, clean bill of health, the blood clotting thing, whatever it was. He's now clear to that. The Browns really, really could use this veteran in the early parts of this stage. You have a lot of young kids. Look, as much as I love Elijah Moore, until we see it, we don't know. Cedric Tillman, again, these are going to be big games early. You don't necessarily want to be relying on a rookie so much. Marquise Goodwin, his vertical ability, he runs a 4.2. This is a big, big get back to, obviously, being a part of everything in Marquise Goodwin. And you think with about 2 weeks, he should probably be ready and, primed to participate in the week 1 opener against the Cincinnati Bengals. Jordan Kunaszyk, sadly, MCL. Jordan Kunaszyk, this isn't a season thing. It's not a week thing either. This is a month thing. So, Jordan Kunaszyk, we'll see how it works out. I'm not sure if the Browns are going to be able to keep a 53-man roster spot for him. He's not high enough in the pecking order in the linebacker room. But I'm sure the Browns would love to continue the relationship with Jordan Kunaszyk. So we'll see where it works out for Jordan as he tries to recover from, this injury, get back on the field. This is a guy that was, really, really appreciated by the special teams coachings and certainly appreciated by defense coordinator Jim Schwartz. So tough break there. Denzel Ward, unfortunately, back in the concussion protocol. I know a lot of people asking why was Denzel Ward essentially playing yesterday. Denzel Ward, there were times in 2022 he was good, but I think it wasn't, compared to other years of his career, Denzel Ward maybe had a tad bit of an off year. And with all this work he had been getting this summer and going against certainly an improved Cleveland Browns wide receiver room, he had been looking really, really good, and it was translating, and it certainly was translating into preseason action. I don't fault the Browns for playing him. Your juices get flowing. You're this close to the opener. You want to get some real work. You want to get some live work. But for Denzel, unfortunately, this is not his first trip to the concussion protocol. So certainly something to monitor here as the Browns' top corner is out for now, but we'll see when Denzel Ward is able to return, hopefully in time and able to return for the week 1 opener. Of course, Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. So it's always going to be an all hands on deck approach for that. So in this string, and we'll get to the other moves here today, and we'll get our reaction from the Kansas City games. You move on from Wheatley, but you get a running back you desperately need. I mean, I'm okay with it. Jakeem Grant, it's heartbreaking. Marquise Goodwin, great for him. And then, of course, Denzel, Jordan Kunaszyk, little snags here, maybe a bigger one for Jordan Kunaszyk. We're going to move on here. We're going to get to the first round of Browns cuts here. I am Jeff Lloyd, your latest Locked On Browns, and I appreciate all of you who make Locked On Browns your first listen every single day. And make sure you join the everyday crowd by subscribing to the Locked On Browns YouTube channel. August is here, and you know what that means. The official start of fantasy football drafting month. Get championship ready for your home league by trying out Best Ball and Underdog Fantasy. All you do is one live snake draft, no waivers, no trades. Underdog sets your lineup every week. Try it out with the Underdog's Best Ball Mania Tournament. The largest fantasy football contest of all time is back and even bigger. With $15 million total prizes up for grabs, including an absurd $3 million going to the winner. Last year, the winner drafted their team in July, so don't wait around. Visit UnderdogFantasy.com or find them in the App Store and sign up with the promo code LOCKEDON to get your first deposit doubled up to $100. That's Underdog Fantasy promo code LOCKED on. You can do a lot of things. The winner of the Best Ball Mania 3 drafted their team in July. What are you waiting for? You can set up your own leagues there. Underdog is the easiest place to play fantasy football and the best place for best ball. We continue on here. Jeff Lloyd, your latest Locked On Browns. And the Browns, after announcing the trade of Tyrone Wheatley Jr. to the Patriots for Pierre Strong Jr., first couple hours after that first round of cuts came out, and we all knew it. And for me, it's a tough one. It was a guy I predicted the Browns would draft a couple of years ago out of Auburn. Absolute speedster, was a track guy most of his time. And I really thought once he was, just a football player. There would be some improvements. A lot of injuries. Sometimes, his route running was not what it needed to be. But y'all going to tell me right now, in 2021, when the Browns opened at the Kansas City Chiefs and lost a heartbreaker, that you didn't think that they had something in Anthony Schwartz, who was a big-time player for them that day. Then you flash forward, obviously the next week against the Houston Texans was part of what became a big interception, of course, and led to Baker Mayfield's injury. Then the New England Patriot game, he got hit so hard and concussion, and he was out for a while. Anthony's been through a lot physically, a lot mentally, but you just can never stack positive days together here at the Cleveland Browns. Wish Anthony Schwartz all the best in his next endeavor. I don't think his time in the league is done by any means whatsoever. I'm sure teams like the Lions or Rams might have some interest. So we'll see the way it works out for Anthony Schwartz, but his time here with the Browns is over. Cornerbacks, Biggers is gone. Heslop, he has also been released. Linebacker Cam Bright is also gone. Forrestall, the tight end. Thomas Graney, the tight end. Offensive tackle Derek Kelly II. Nate Meters, Jalen Wayne, Colby Gossett, Jordan Wilkins, all no longer with the Cleveland Browns. As the Browns are starting to make their way down, I believe the number now is at 76. Browns have a lot of players to get working on here. There's still 23 more guys to go. They also have to, look at the way it is with some of these guys who are injured, because they have to, if they want to keep them, they have to stay on the 53-man roster. And then you can put them on IR and start to acquire players back to fill their roles. So the Browns are in a tough spot here, and Anthony Schwartz, you look at the wide receiver room and you just go back to it. And this is a room that, when Anthony first got here, it was, Odell and it was Jarvis Landry. And now you flash forward here a couple of years and it's Amari Cooper, the emergence of Donovan Peoples-Jones, Elijah Moore, Marquise Goodwin, Cedric Tillman, even also Watkins Jr., David Bell. There are so many new guys that came in. And it's not that the Browns didn't give Anthony an opportunity. They certainly gave Anthony Schwartz an opportunity. It just didn't work out for the guy. And it's tough, man. You hate it. The NFL is a cruel, cruel business. But the Browns, starting to, and have no choice here, but 48 hours from now to get this roster where it needs to be, you got to make some tough decisions. Anthony being injured and not really even giving himself a chance here. And I think once we knew that Anthony Schwartz was playing late in fourth quarters of preseason games and he wasn't dominating them, we knew Anthony was in a really, really tough spot. The rest of the guys, were either, late ads, or the numbers weren't working in their favor anyway. You look at, the cornerback, the corners, obviously you have Denzel Ward who's going to stay. You have Greg Newsome. You certainly have Martin Emerson. You have Cam Mitch, who's going to stay. Ford most likely is going to stay here as a special teams guy. And then you have AJ Green. And look, the Browns love AJ Green. They really do. So, AJ Green's not going anywhere. So that's 6 cornerbacks. That was a room that was difficult to make. The tight ends that were released, I mean, what were you going to do? You're not going to beat out David Njoku. You're not going to beat out Jordan Akins. You're not going to beat out, most likely Harrison Bryant. And we'll wait word on his medical because it was weird because we had heard he was getting closer when we hadn't heard anything about Marquise Goodwin, and all of a sudden here Marquise Goodwin is back. We'll see, if we're getting Harrison Bryant back here shortly or not. In the offensive tackle room for Derek Kelly, same thing that affected Tyrone Wheatley. There just wasn't room for these guys. Colby Gossett, once that you saw that Luke Whippler was getting a lot of work as guard as well, you kind of knew Michael Dunn was going to be your top reserve guard, and they were kind of maybe combing, Luke Whippler here to be a guy that could also play guard in addition to being your backup center. So the Browns had moves to make, and look, you guys get opportunities, and unfortunately, it's a numbers game. Not everybody's capable of playing in the NFL, and that is certainly understandable, and no question about it. But it's also doesn't mean necessarily it's over. Look, I mean, just because it's not like the days in the past where if you couldn't make the Cleveland Browns, you weren't making any NFL roster. It's a lot different now. Teams can end up making, guys can end up making other rosters just because, look, the Browns are a good roster. They're loaded. There's not enough room for everybody. Plus, some of these guys, you never know. Maybe you need, an XFL stint. Maybe you need, a stint in minor league football. Get your confidence back so when you get a second chance in the NFL camps, you're ready for it. You're ready to compete. You're ready to go battle. That's why these leagues exist. That's why they flourish. And that's why you're starting to see a lot of players. Austin Watkins, prime example of guys that needed a little bit more time, got it, and then found a way to, basically get in, perform. And if Austin Watkins isn't going to be a Cleveland Brown, he's going to be somewhere because, this guy put on a hell of a summer. Teams need players. You always need wide receivers. So you see the way it works out for Austin Watkins Jr. Did play 6 snaps on special teams yesterday. So you remember I was talking the other day about the integration of that. Some guys, when they get here, hey, you're just trying to learn the playbook, learn where you got to be aligned. And then once you get a little bit more confident with that, they can start working in other places. And you saw that a little bit with Austin Watkins Jr. yesterday. We're going to continue on here. Your reactions from the Kansas City Chiefs game yesterday. Obviously, for me, what I care about, everything that looked good, everything that needed to look good, did look good. We'll get to the other stuff. Your latest Locked On Browns continues. Jeff Lloyd, your host. I appreciate everybody for being along for the ride with me. Game time. Now, look, we have I have, me, my wife, we have 2 teenage daughters. We like to do things. We don't necessarily have the time to plan it out and know when our availability is going to be. So we are last second buyers. So buying tickets to your favorite events should be stressful. Game time is the fastest and easiest way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you with killer deals on last minute tickets and their best price guarantee. You can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun that you will have. Recently, my wife and daughters, we have a great venue here, but the weather was not that friendly. So they had lawn seats. She wanted to jump in and switch. She was able to make it easy, simple. Nobody got soaking wet. Game Time is the place for last-minute ticket deals. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for football, basketball, baseball, concerts, comedy, theater, and more. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. If you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 10% of the business. Get images of your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds. 2 taps and you are set. Tickets are sent directly to your phone so you never have to dig through your email. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. We close it out here. Segment 3, your latest Locked On Browns. Obviously, a lot of roster moves here. Browns bringing a running back that they desperately needed in Pierre Strong Jr. Marquise Goodwin back. Anthony Schwartz among a host of roster cuts to this point. Browns at 76 need to get to 53 by Tuesday at 4 p.m. Now, the game itself yesterday and started off beautifully for your Cleveland Browns other than the Jakeem Grant injury. Deshaun only 5 of 10, but a big one to Amari Cooper. As Deshaun was rolling to the left, I think the coverage thought Deshaun was going to take off with it. Amari, being hezzy as he is, stayed with his route, started tripping downfield, leaking away as the defensive backs got flat-footed. Of course, Watson hits him for a big 53-yard gain. Browns continued, a couple of fumbles, obviously. Jordan Wilkins, I'm not really sure what he was doing. And you're taught how, that's one of the first things you learn playing football is how to take a handoff. And he was taking it 100% incorrectly. And after the second one, you could see the visible frustration from Deshaun Watson. As there's a lot of pressure on, of course, Deshaun, and Deshaun certainly wanted to look good. This was important for him to get himself right mentally as the Browns are getting ready for week 1, of course, against the Cincinnati Bengals. But 5 of 10 overall. I think with his preseason action, I think he put him at, it's like 8 of 13 of what he was for the summer. The David Njoku touchdown. I know it looks pretty easy. Dropping that ball over the defender into your tight end is a lot harder than it looks. So impressive, from Deshaun there. They were able to score a lot of points, benefit to a lot of help from the defensive side of the ball. And, if you wanted to see, and if you had any idea, granted it was not the first teamers, but if you're curious, what a Jim Schwartz defense looks like, what a Jim Schwartz defense can do, you saw it on Saturday. The tenacity of Juan Thornhill jumping a route, taking it to the house. Martin Emerson getting involved, creating an interception for Rodney McLeod. Zadarius Smith yesterday was giving people the work, man. He's going to be a really fun player to cover this year. He seems excited to be here, excited to play for Jim Schwartz, excited to be a part of this defensive line, even though the Browns did like okey-dokus a little bit yesterday, making us think we were going to get Myles Garrett. They eventually did, do the right thing, certainly in my opinion, and have Myles Garrett sit down. Linebackers, Tony Fields was crazy active yesterday. Mahmoud Diabate, all of a sudden now the opportunity for him to make this roster becomes a lot clearer, in my opinion. I'm not, with Kunaszyk going down, and I got to be honest, I don't know if I need to keep Adams. I don't. I'm just because he played for Bubba Ventrone and has some experience playing in his special teams system, I'm not sure that's enough that's doing it for me at this point. I just don't see much. So I'd rather not move on from a player like Diabate, who I think has shown me some things that I'm excited for, or even Tony Fields, who I think has looked good. Tony Fields last year basically almost won the Houston Texans game by himself. He's been very active all summer. You see the difference of having a true defensive line in front of him is making for a guy like Tony Fields. Siaki Ika, I was impressed with yesterday. Part of 2 half sacks, which gives him 1 for the day. PFF guys know that's 2, right? So Siaki Ika with a good day yesterday. He continued just with the way this defense is starting to play together. It's starting to gel together. They look fast. They are aggressive and really, really quick to the football. That's really, really the takeaway I've had from this defense the entire summer long. You're giving up some yardage, you're giving up some points. And guys who are never playing for the Browns, we're giving up a lot of yards and a lot of points late in the game. But those same guys are the same guys that we're talking about that aren't going to be here. And most of them have already been released and will continue to be released. So, it's not ideal, but in the same, respect, these guys are not going to be a part of this team this year. So, whatever they did yesterday, it doesn't certainly matter. I guess we can get to it now. Cade York, I don't know how. And I think it was Pete Smith who I saw mention it. Do you maybe try to put him on a practice squad? If there's one thing we all understand, we all agree with on Cade York, is he's got a powerful leg. He does. He certainly does. But right now, he's just the mental part of it. It's gone. And, can it be brought back? That's a big question, certainly. But the Browns, and if it were any other year, or if the schedule broke differently, I'd feel a little different. I'd say, whatever, let's go week 1. If he's out there week 1, that's it. You give him every opportunity you could, move on. But it's Cincinnati, and then it's Pittsburgh, and then it is Tennessee, and then it is the Ravens, and then it's the bye week, and it's the Niners. These games can all be razor sharp. They can all be razor sharp close, man. Really, really tight ball games. And going into these games, when you got a kicker right now who's a little mentally frail, it's a really, really difficult spot to do, man. And, and we know how it's going to work. In these positions, the opportunity always finds you. It's not like, the Browns are going to go out and win 28-0 against the Cincinnati Bengals, and you basically can go, whew. No, it's going to come down to 30 seconds to go in a game. Browns down by 2, and you're going to have this guy that right now is a little, dealing with some mental issues in a big spot. And it's a tough thing to be. But maybe if the Browns do release Cade York, do find a veteran kicker to bring in here, maybe you can just go a little stress-free for a couple of weeks. And maybe when the Browns start to see it, there's an opportunity you can get him back up. But, I don't know how they do it. And Coach Stefanski spoke today, and he basically mentioned he's not sure. And normally this franchise keeps everything tight to the vest. And even the way Coach said this today, and it didn't really sound like a negative because Coach doesn't really speak in negatives. It was about as negative as Coach could get. And again, it's not negative, and he really wasn't. But you got to somewhat be honest, and he was. I don't think it's going to work out for Cade, and at this point, I don't know what you do. I just don't see how you can keep it going with Cade. I do like the practice squad idea. Basically, he can clear his head. Practice isn't the issue. It's games. That's where the problem is going to be, though, is how do you simulate game-like conditions for a guy who's on the practice squad? You just really can't do that. So, it's great. Oh, well, he went 6 for, what are we going to hear? He went 6 for 6 in practice. We've already gone 6 for 6 in practice 150,000 times. But none of it matters until you start doing it in ball games. So it's really, really a tough spot for the Browns to be in. As far as Browns' other roster moves, basically 48 hours from now, they have to get down to the 53-man roster. Browns still have players they could possibly move. I mean, whether or not anybody else is coming in at this point, I don't think so, unless it's a kicker, obviously. But I think Nick Harris is a guy that could be traded. I know there's been other teams, fan bases who've asked me about Michael Dunn. Michael Dunn is not going anywhere. Michael Dunn is their top guard. Reserve guard, and Michael Dunn's not going anywhere. So it'd be interesting how that plays out. There's still, guys in the defensive tackle room. How's that going to play out? Are they going to end up keeping 5 maybe, which gives, time for some of these other guys to maybe prove themselves? Because, I mean, we know it's going to be Tomlinson. We certainly know it's going to be Shelby Harris. Of course, Ika is going to be a guy who's going to make it. It seems like Jordan Wilkins is guaranteed. I think Maurice Hurst is a guy we'd like to get a little more time with. So we'll see the way the Browns handle those things, monitor those things in the next 48 hours here. But the Browns are down to 76 guys. New running back brought in, Pierre Strong Jr., as the Browns moved on from Tyrone Wheatley Jr. Good trade, I think, for both teams. The Patriots can continue hopefully working with this young player, see if they can maybe get him to a rosterable caliber player. Browns get a guy in Strong who can do a little receiving, certainly a solid running back with speed, with athleticism, can help out with the kick return game, obviously, because the Browns just got a big blow there with Jakeem Grant being lost again for the season. So, and he takes some positives. The Marquise Goodwin story is a good one. I also get good for Marquise Goodwin to be back in the fold here. Got to a bunch. We'll have a bunch coming here this week. We got 1 week, and then we go right into week 1 of the NFL season. Browns, Bengals, 1:00 start. Of course, Cleveland Browns Stadium. I'm your host, Jeff Floyd. Now my 7th season with Locked On Browns. Appreciate you all for coming out here every day, listening to the words I got to speak. As always, make sure that you subscribe. Join the everyday crowd by subscribing to Locked On Browns YouTube channel. All the everybody makes Locked On Browns their first listen. You guys are the absolute best. Locked On Browns is always available. It's always free wherever you get your podcasts. This has been your daily delivery of all things Dog Pound. LGB on the LOB. Let's go Browns.